7 Stages of Acting Ability of Johnny Depp. What if I told you that the most fearless actor in Hollywood history was once called a pretty boy with no future? What if I told you the man who invented one of cinema's most iconic characters? A character so original that studio executives tried to shut it down before audiences ever saw it. Started out as a failed musician who stumbled into acting by accident, 3 Academy Award nominations, films that grossed over $10 billion worldwide, and a career so uniquely his own that no one in Hollywood has ever come close to replicating it. This is not just an acting career. This is a masterclass in artistic refusal to be ordinary. 7 stages. 1 extraordinary man. Stage 1. The accidental actor. Johnny Depp was never supposed to be an actor. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky on June 9, 1963, he dropped out of high school at 16 to chase a music career. His band, The Kids, relocated from Florida to Los Angeles, even opening for Iggy Pop, and that is where the story took its first unexpected turn. Depp's then-wife, Lori Ann Allison, introduced him to her friend Nicolas Cage, who immediately saw something in this restless, intense young man that Depp himself did not yet see. Cage arranged an audition with director Wes Craven, and in 1984, Johnny Depp made his film debut in A Nightmare on Elm Street, playing a teenager who gets eaten by his own bed. The role was small, the screen time was minimal, but the camera noticed him in a way it does not notice most people. Depp later said he had no idea what he was doing. He was simply fascinated by the process. That fascination, raw, unpolished, and completely accidental, was the beginning of everything. Stage 2. The cage he built himself. In 1987, Depp joined the TV series 21 Jump Street as undercover cop officer Tom Hansen. Overnight, he became a teen idol. Magazines put his face on covers. Teenage fans flooded his appearances. Studios and networks were delighted. Johnny Depp was furious. He reportedly described the show as a can of soup being marketed and packaged for mass consumption. He despised the heartthrob label so intensely that he deliberately tried to get fired, trashing his trailer, creating friction on set, doing everything he could to escape the golden cage his own fame had built around him. He earned $45,000 per episode. He hated every day of it. When his contract finally expired in 1989, he walked away without hesitation, turning his back on guaranteed stardom to find something that actually mattered. Most actors spend their careers chasing what Depp left behind. This decision is what separated him from everyone else in his generation. Stage 3. The artist emerges. 1990 was the year Johnny Depp stopped being a name and became a force. He made Edward Scissorhands with Tim Burton, playing a gentle, incomplete artificial man with scissors for hands, unable to hold the things he loved without destroying them. The role required no dialogue to express profound emotion. It required pure physical presence, stillness, and vulnerability. Edward Scissorhands earned over $86 million worldwide and earned Depp his first Golden Globe nomination. But more importantly, and it established the defining truth of his career, he was not interested in playing heroes or leading men. He was interested in playing human beings who existed on the edges of society, misunderstood and achingly real. Then came What's Eating Gilbert Grape in 1993. Where Depp delivered a restrained, quietly devastating performance alongside a young Leonardo DiCaprio, conveying years of suppressed frustration, obligation, and love without ever overplaying a single moment. Then, Benny and June the same year, physical comedy that honored Buster Keaton and Chaplin. Then Ed Wood in 1994, where he played the worst director in cinema history with heartbreaking sincerity and won his second Golden Globe nomination. In 4 years, he had built a body of work that film schools would study for decades. See Stage 4. The complete actor. By the mid to late 1990s, Johnny Depp had evolved into something genuinely rare in Hollywood, an actor with no apparent ceiling on his range. Donnie Brasco in 1997 paired him with Al Pacino in a crime drama about an undercover FBI agent disappearing so deeply into the mob that he began losing himself entirely. The performance was controlled, layered, and psychologically precise. Critics called it among his finest work to date. Then, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in 1998, where he physically inhabited the body and spirit of journalist Hunter S. Thompson with such alarming commitment that Thompson himself reportedly said Depp understood him better than anyone alive. Depp had actually lived with Thompson while preparing for the role, studying his mannerisms, his walk, his way of processing the world. This was not preparation. This was total transformation. Then Sleepy Hollow in 1999, where he played the squeamish, unexpectedly comedic Ichabod Crane in a gothic horror film that earned over $200 million worldwide. Different genres, different tones, different human beings, all completely convincing. This was the stage where Johnny Depp became the most interesting actor working in Hollywood. Stage 5, the icon is born. In 2003, something happened that nobody predicted, least of all Disney executives who reportedly panicked when they first saw the footage. Johnny Depp arrived on screen as Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, and immediately created one of the most original characters in the history of blockbuster cinema. Sparrow was not a traditional hero. He stumbled, slurred, mascara-eyed and rum-soaked, operating on a cunning that disguised itself as chaos. Depp had modeled the character on Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards and cartoon skunk Pepe Le Pew, a combination that sounded insane on paper and was genius on screen. Disney executives had wanted him removed from the film. Audiences made him the reason to see it. The film grossed $654 million worldwide. Depp received his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. The franchise ultimately grossed over $4.5 billion across 5 films. Then, Finding Neverland in 2004, tender, precise, completely different, earned him his second Oscar nomination. Then, Sweeney Todd in 2007, singing, murderous, gothic, earned his third Oscar nomination and his first Golden Globe win. The 3 Oscar nominations in 4 years across 3 completely different genres. That is not a movie star. That is a genuine actor operating at the absolute height of his powers. Stage 6, The Fall and the Truth. Then something shifted. Through the late 2000s and into the 2000s, the roles became bigger and the performances became smaller. The Tourist in 2010, Dark Shadows in 2012, The Lone Ranger in 2013, a financial disaster that lost the studio over $160 million. Transcendence in 2014. The sequels grew weaker. The creative hunger that had defined his greatest work seemed to dim under the weight of massive paychecks and franchise obligations. In 2012, Guinness World Records listed Depp as the world's highest-paid actor, with earnings of $75 million in a single year. He was also, in the estimation of many critics, coasting. And then the personal storms arrived. Legal battles, public scrutiny, studios distancing themselves. Warner Brothers dropped him from the Fantastic Beasts franchise in 2020. Disney removed him from Pirates of the Caribbean entirely, a film he had genuinely poured himself into. Minamata, playing legendary photojournalist W. Eugene Smith, was buried by the studio without a proper release. The most celebrated actor of his generation was being treated like a liability. This stage revealed something important. What happens to extraordinary talent when the industry that profited from it decides it is done with you? Stage 7, The Unbreakable. In June 2022, a Virginia jury ruled largely in Johnny Depp's favor in his defamation case, finding his ex-wife liable on all 3 counts. The verdict did not restore him overnight. So Hollywood does not work that way. But something else had already been happening. While studios had shunned him, European film festivals in Poland, the Czech Republic, and Spain had been quietly honoring him. The Cannes Film Festival selected Jeanne du Barry, a French period romance in which Depp played King Louis XV, as its opening film in 2023. When he arrived at Cannes, thousands of fans gathered outside and gave him a standing ovation before the film even screened. His total filmography has now grossed over $10.8 billion worldwide. 3 Oscar nominations, a Golden Globe, an honorary César, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. His films are studied in acting programs worldwide. And throughout every stage, the accidental beginning, the artistic breakthroughs, the blockbuster heights, the painful fall, and the defiant return, one thing has never changed. Johnny Depp has never once played it safe. In a Hollywood built on calculation and risk management, that refusal is the rarest quality of all. It is also the one thing that will make his legacy genuinely permanent. Conclusion: 7 stages. 1 completely unclassifiable career. From a musician who never planned to act, to an artist who redefined what film acting could look like, to a man who survived an industry trying to erase him, Johnny Depp remains the most compelling argument cinema has made in 50 years for choosing art over comfort. Subscribe, because the next legend we cover built their greatness the same way, by refusing every safe path offered to them.